Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Storms of Furey. The name Furey, that actually is my real name, last name. Again, I think I've told this story before. Growing up down in Norwalk, Connecticut, watching WCBS Channel 2 in New York, and there was Frank Field, who was famous, and then there was Stormfield, his son, and I always said, Stormfield? What about Storm Furey? And so, this is where we've gone over the course of the last 40-plus years. Storms of Furey. The furious nature of some of these big systems are ones that stick out in our mind. We all have our favorites, and then we all have ones that we totally forget about. So far out this December in the Rockies, they'd like to forget about the winter so far. They haven't had winter to talk about at all. Yes, Denver, Colorado, 12 degrees above average in December. Vail, Colorado, with only 8 out of 33 lifts going, and they only have an 18-inch base, basically. Go up to some of the ski areas in New England, and we have 40-inch bases going and 220 inches already in places like Jay Peak, Vermont. So the big ridge of high pressure has been out there in the plains and Rockies, and they've been golfing and picnicking and just having an unbelievable time. Denver, Colorado has had 16 days in the 60s and 70s in December 2025, while for us here in southern New England, if we get to the 40s, we think it's balmy. It's amazing how you get acclimated. And yes, we're about 5 degrees below average here in the month of December 2025. 3 out of the last 5 months below average. The setup right now, big negative NAO, ridge up into Greenland, and then the big ridge out to our west. So there's a funnel of cold coming down into the Great Lakes and the Northeast and New England, but everybody else has been very warm up until, this week, when the cold has now made it down to the south. And so, up in Western Canada, some all-time record low temperatures, 54, 56, 57 below zero. Fairbanks, Alaska was 44 below zero for the high temperature yesterday, and again today they're near 40 below. Their average high, by the way, is 2 above. So the cold is just tremendous up there to the north. And if we were to have that high, back towards the west coast, all this cold would be diving to the Gulf. The big storms would form, Miller type storms, and they'd come up the East Coast, and we'd be digging out by now. Instead, we somehow, some way, it all has to do with the pattern, managed to get 5 weather systems in a month that's 5 degrees below average that have been rain and not snow. The snow that fell in Connecticut on last Friday, going into the last weekend of December, right after Christmas, was all because of the 70-degree temperature that was wedging up through West Virginia. Yeah, the big warmth hit the big cold over New England, and we had 2-3 inch per hour snowfall rates for a short period of time. We got about 6 inches in 3 hours. So imagine if that kept on going. We've done that with storms in the past. How about February 9th, 2013? We're going to be talking about that storm down the road. But we had 6 to 7 inch per hour snowfall rates. I go to schools and I tell that story. 6 to 7 inch snowfall rates, and the whole classroom goes nuts. 6, 7, right? Casey, you know what that is? Our producer Casey, 6, 7. I say that all the time, and it's like everybody goes nuts, and then nobody can tell me what it means. So anyhow, seeing 6 to 7 inch per hour snowfall rates is probably once in a lifetime thing, just like it's been with the Aurora Borealis over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, with these tremendous solar storms that have put on a show with the naked eye, even right down all the way to the Caribbean for that matter. So the sun has been wild, and the weather has been wild. There's a lot of correlation between what's going on in the sun and the earthquakes that are going on in that Ring of Fire area. But for now, what we're trying to do is see what correlation will all this action on the sun have to do with our weather down the road here. So we're talking about the idea for big below average weather here in December, and the cold's going to keep on coming in through New England and the Northeast right through January. We expect January to be cold. Again, for you snow lovers, are the big storms going to come? Well, like the one, for instance, President's Day. President's Day going back into the 2003 timeframe, the 16th and 17th. Storm out of the Gulf of Mexico came on up, and that was a storm that was first forecast to stay to the south, and it was going to be a big snowstorm for D.C. and places like that. But then all of a sudden it started to make its move and started to come on up. And, this one, 15 to 30 inches of snow, D.C., all the way up to Boston. It was a top 10 for many of the big cities. So you go back to February 17th, 18th of 2003, and the President's Day storm was one to remember. The classic nor'easters, usually get down, 970, 980 millibars. This one was only about 1,000 millibars. It was one that, exited the region on the 18th and, left places that, for instance, Bradley Airport had upwards of about 15 inches of snow. We had some 20-inch amounts in and around the Hartford area. Very uniform profile as far as snowfall, with the biggest amounts in the Danbury area. Some places had 2 feet. And then this storm put over 2 feet of snow. It's one of the biggest snowstorms for Boston ever. So, again, these are the storms we look for, especially when you have pattern setups like what we have going right now, where the cold is there. It's a tremendous amount of cold. It's going to keep on coming down. If we can shift the pattern and we can get the ridge out of the west, we'll start to see the potential for the big Gulf of Mexico East Coast storms like we saw on February 16th and 17th of 2003. So how about the one that maybe you're thinking of right now? We're going to talk about the blizzard of 1978 and what we think the rest of this winter is going to be like coming up. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. All right. We get into certain winters, and, sometimes we don't see a whole lot of winter happening, and the folks out to the western part of the United States and central part of the United States haven't had really any winter yet. In the east, northeast especially, winter in a big way. So we always say if you've got the cold, the snow can't be far away. Probably the idea would be the big storms can't be far away. And if you go back into the late 70s, you'll remember, and you can always Google this and go in and take a close look at what some of these storms were about that I'm talking about. But when you go back to the late 70s, if you remember, we were talking about maybe the Ice Age is coming back. Yeah, so much cold was taking over. And, a setup where, the big cold got down to the south and off the East Coast. And, the big cold formed a big storm. And that big storm, it was basically, some don't like to refer to it as this, but a snow hurricane. It ended up being a just astonishing, really fascinating storm. It was a time period where forecasting big storms was not our forte. You got to remember back in the late 70s, we were just coming into age of computer models and abilities to try and figure out what things were doing. But the forecasting of the big ones was very tough. There was a storm back in the early 2000s that was forecast to be 1 to 3 inches, and we ended up with 1 to 2 feet. So anyhow, we are talking about February 6th and 7th of 1978, the blizzard of 1978. And basically, the word to use for this storm was catastrophic, because you're talking about a storm that formed off the southeast coast, and kind of like in the fashion of what happened with the blizzard of February 9th and 10th of 2013. The storm got energized and pulled in towards New England, and it came up and it stalled off of Long Island for 40 hours, and it was the wind, the 50 to 70 mile per hour winds that were with this storm consistently, constantly. The drifts were mind-boggling. They were tremendous. And the problem with the blizzard of 1978 is that we actually had an idea that something really big was going to happen. And weather forecasters all across the east and northeast were saying, listen, there is the potential for a major snowstorm. But because weather forecasts were wrong so much, and I remember back then being in situations where you'd forecast 10 inches of snow and the sun was out. We've talked about that before. So nobody took it seriously. And so, unfortunately, it was, everybody out on the roads. The storm came in, and we see it when the snow comes down at a 2-3 inch per hour snowfall rate, how fast things change. That happened back on the Friday after Christmas, where, that was not a big storm. That was just a tremendous thermal gradient that developed. But you dump 2-3 inches of snow an hour, and, visibility goes down. And the thing is, you can't see. But when the snow starts to pile up, and then the wind is blowing 70 miles per hour and the drifts happen, you end up with a catastrophic historic nor'easter. Crippled Connecticut, Massachusetts, all of New England, record snows 2 to 3 feet. Again, those hurricane-force winds of 70-plus miles per hour. Devastating coastal flooding from high tide. Widespread paralysis, the major property damage, people stranded on highways. Unfortunately, people found dead in cars. People left their cars on, and the snow accumulated. They were killed by carbon monoxide. It was for some, a horrifying situation. Sustained winds were 50 miles per hour. There were some gusts estimated out in the Cape of 100 miles per hour. The massive storm surge destroyed homes and seawalls. Coastal communities were devastated. So, the other side of the coin with this storm was the magnitude of a Category 2, 3 hurricane that caused the tremendous destruction out across coastal areas, especially of eastern Massachusetts. Thousands of people trapped on highways. Route 128 in Boston, for instance, it was a work and a school day, and everybody went out, and nobody got back home. And unfortunately, some lost their lives. Many lost their lives in this storm. The economic shutdown, the region was paralyzed for over a week. Airports closed. There was widespread power outages with this storm as well. And around 100 deaths attributed, and there may have been more than that. It was the stalling just south of Long Island and the looping and the intensifying and drawing the cold air in. It was, a storm that caught everybody unprepared, coincided with a new moon, maximum tidal surge, and, modern forecasting was not advanced at that point in time. And there was little warning of the massive potential, although there were some meteorologists that had the thought that something like this could happen, probably not to this magnitude, but it, kind of went with the hurricane of 1938, where, the forecast was for showers and breezy, and 140-mile-per-hour winds came in, and nobody knew what was happening. So blizzard of 78, it remains a defining, infamous moment in New England weather history. It's sheer power, unforgettable experiences, and those of you that lived through it will never forget. I'll never forget the fact that I looked out to see my Volkswagen Beetle down in Norwalk, Connecticut, and it wasn't there. It was entirely buried. Was working at Gregory's store in Norwalk, and I was able to get back and into the driveway, and remember somebody had a four-wheel drive vehicle, which was really kind of rare at that point in time. And, the blizzard of 1978, the big snow hurricane here in New England. It'll go down as the defining storm. And, we've had others since then, but it was all about the wind. All right, let's talk about, is there the potential for something like that this winter in the pattern we have set up? We'll do that coming up. All right, hi, everybody. Welcome back. All right. Just touching again on the blizzard of 78. Boston had 27.1 inches of snow. There was some thoughts here in Connecticut that, some of the snowfall amounts that were measured weren't really measured right because of the 50 to 70 mile per hour winds. I remember Bruce DePriest, Channel 3, showing me the hourly observations and how consistently over so many hours that the wind was 50 miles per hour, gusting to 70 miles per hour. And there were reports of 3 feet of snow in eastern Connecticut and drifts up 12 to 16 feet high. Situate, Massachusetts had a wind gust to 111 miles per hour. There was just total whiteout conditions. 14 motorists on I-95 succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning because the snow clogged the tailpipes as the cars stayed on. So it was a horrifying situation for those going out and plowing and trying to get the snow out of the way and running into vehicles underneath snow and then finding bodies inside. It was a sad, sad situation. Just a total of coastal homes that were destroyed. 2,100 coastal storms were destroyed from the massive storm surge and erosion. And the amount of damage from coastal areas of Long Island, of Southeast Connecticut, Rhode Island, Eastern Massachusetts, $2.5 billion worth of damage. So when you look at this storm, yes, it's all about the snow and the blizzard conditions, but the damage from this storm goes down as worse than many hurricanes that have come through here. All right, so the big question now as we move along, and, oh, by the way, the number of on just Route 128 in Massachusetts, 3,500 vehicles. 3,500 vehicles were abandoned and buried on that roadway. The other thing, too, is that's not talked about, is that there were 11,000 people stranded inside the Boston Garden for several days, sleeping in bleachers and eating hot dogs from the concession stand. Was the bean pot tournament, I think. So that'll give you an idea of how much we weren't prepared for that storm. So, question is, can you be prepared for storms like this? Remember, February 9th, 2013, we had 3 feet of snow here. That wasn't really a classic blizzard. That was snow that came down, but the wind wasn't there with that. But it just put things to a halt. I remember looking out the window onto 84, and I saw a state trooper coming off the exit and hit the snow and just stopped dead. Couldn't move. We had one of our meteorologists got stuck on 91, spent the entire night on 91. Couldn't go anywhere. And it was buried, literally buried, just like the blizzard of 78. And then there was, him trying to get home, walked a mile in 3 feet of snow, and said if he wasn't in shape, he wouldn't have made it. So we're making inroads to a winter of 2025 and 2026 that could be one that goes down in the record books. So we're starting out. Now, keep in mind, when we take a look at a given winter, it's December, January, and February. Those are the 3 months of what we call meteorological winter, even though winter starts December 21st, 22nd, and ends March 21st, 22nd. It's, when the numbers are compiled for the winter, it's December, January, February. So December is going to go down as one of the colder Decembers on record, certainly not anywhere near December 1989 when we were 14.5 degrees below average. But in terms of snowfall, we're actually a little below average in some places with snowfall for this month. So to have such a cold month, the snow is not happening, but the idea that cold, January, the cold keeps coming. We expect that in January. One of the questions I have right now, are the ponds frozen enough? Are people skating yet? With the numbers where we've been, the chances are probably is. I see the Connecticut River's got a tremendous amount of ice in it. So the thought is that the cold keeps coming. The thought is that the pattern doesn't seem to really want to change, at least not for the first half of January. So you're going to have the cold, but for you snow lovers that want the big snowstorm, it doesn't appear to be there in the first half of January. There is something January 6th, 7th, and then 9th, 10th, 11th. There's something there, but it's just not getting its act together. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But then, as we go on for the second half of January into February, there are signs that the pattern tries to shift. If that happens, the cold gets to come down more, and it has the better chance to form the big storms. So the thought is, yes, this is going to be a winter that, well, for the first time in a long, long time, has significant cold, relentless cold, consistent cold. Your heating bill, you're not going to like it. So that part we've got down. But in terms of how much snow do we get down onto the ground, keep in mind, in the Hartford area, north central Connecticut, you're talking about an average of 47, 48 inches of snow a winter, and the shoreline's more in the 20, 25-inch range. As far as, those numbers, by the time this winter's over, we certainly should be able to achieve that. Maybe more. March. Yeah, March can be a really tough month in terms of winter weather. There was, March 1956, we had over 4 feet of snow in Connecticut. So yeah, the cold is there's no denying the cold, and sooner or later there's not going to be a denying of the potential for a big one. Now, again, keep in mind, the reason why the blizzard of 78 was so big is because it stalled and didn't move for 40 hours. So if you get a storm that just comes on through, you can dump 1-2 feet of snow, and it's a sizable storm, and it's got you cleaning up for a while and out of school and working from home and so forth. For you snow lovers heading for the second half of January, February in a pattern that looks like it, may get a lot more interesting in terms of potential for the big snowstorm. That's the thought process at this point in time. Yes, be prepared. Make sure that you can continue to dress everybody accordingly. And make sure you continue to pay attention to everything that's going on out there. There's so much to keep track of, and staying healthy. This is a terrible flu season, and making sure you're dressed right is a big deal. Humidifier, making sure you have that going. Washing the hands, and certainly taking care of your pets and elderly and the young ones. And, we'll take care of you as we continue to keep you updated on the ever-changing world of weather, because you never know when that furious storm is going to show up and be something that, knocks us down for a while. We are going to look for, as we head down the road here, the correlation between the sun, the big sunspots, the big solar storms, and what kind of storms are happening down here on Earth. And so as time goes along here, we continue to think that, yes, things are going to get a lot more interesting. The storms are going to be coming along, and, it's going to be something that we're talking about in terms of, a always being prepared. All right, that's the very latest. Hope you're doing well. Stay healthy, and Happy New Year.